let's explore the balance of flow and structure. Most people think structure and flow are opposites, but in fact, they are complementary. Now, most people experience a life that is dominated by structure. We experience this in our families, school system, the government. It's really this life that suppresses the flow, which then life is experienced as a rigid routine that's monotonous, dry, and lifeless. This dominance in structure, a life of structure without flow, tries to control everything, and it resists change. Change is flow. Flow is change. It's rigid. It's hard. All structure, no flow is one extreme. Most experience this as something that often gets called a material life or a materialistic life. And then one finds the spiritual path and starts to open up, soften, become more flexible through surrender, and experience more flow in their life. They follow the flow of inspiration. They listen to the flow of intuition. They feel their feelings flow. And what often happens is one then rejects the structure. It's this rebellious spirit that longs for the freedom of that flow, the flow of freedom, to move through form. And the life of structure without flow suppress that flow. Then one shifts to flow without structure. Then there's a rejection of that structure. What once felt very liberating, freeing, starts to slowly and subtly become a life of bypass. When there's flow and no structure, one is scattered. This flow lacks potency without structure. It's like a river that's flowing. The structure is the riverbeds. It's the riverbeds that's holding the flow of the river, directing the flow of the river. And it's their unity that you experience the power of the river. Without that structure, the river spills. It's what's experienced as a flood. And much like that, a life without structure, you experience your energy spill. It lacks direction, it lacks containment, it lacks structure. That flow that used to feel so freeing, so liberating, is flaccid. It lacks intention. That intention is this inner tone. The tone the structure, where it's not a hardening like before, but it's also not flaccid. When there's all flow and no structure, this, I don't know if this is a word, this flaccidity, this life that's flaccid is also passive. So this is where the bypassing slowly sneaks in. Life can become very passive when there's all flow and no structure. This life of all flow and no structure is very ungrounded. One walks through life with their head up in the clouds, disconnected, disembodied from the everyday, practical life. This is when the material life is simply exchanged or swapped for the spiritual life, where flow is preferred, but also structure is rejected. So one feels scattered, one feels lost, and drifts through life without any direction, without the structure, without the order. Without the order, this flow, when not contained, when it lacks structure, when it lacks order, becomes chaotic. So you see, I'm painting the picture of two extremes, two sides of the coin. And this is where integration comes in, because it's not about fixating on one or the other. It's not about preferring one or the other. It's actually about integrating the two and seeing that actually they're not separate. That really the balance of structure and flow is experienced as the harmony of the whole. That this structure and flow are actually complementary. They're synergistic. And to experience this harmony in your life requires the integration of the two, where one is not preferred over the other, one is not rejected over the other, and this harmony that can only be lived, cannot be understood, is really the living paradox. How can there be both simultaneously? And this is really the balance of life. This is really the mastery. When the two are integrated, you feel that potency in every step that you walk. This clarity, this vision that's directing the flow, not dominating the flow, not controlling the flow, not suppressing the feminine, but holding the feminine. This is the divine masculine. And when it's integrated, the masculine serves the feminine by holding her, because he longs to feel her aliveness. He doesn't want life to be mechanical, dry, lifeless. He longs to feel her aliveness in form. That flow that flows through the form is her. And she wants to feel his boundaries, feel his containment, feel his structure, his strength. And you see the two are synergistic. The two are experienced as the harmony of the whole. It's something that the mind can't understand, because the mind only knows this or that. It can't understand this and that simultaneously. And that's what I'm speaking of. Is in living truth, it's a living paradox where you're experiencing both simultaneously. And the two are complementary. And even more than complementary, they're synergistic. You don't experience that pendulum shift or pendulum swing from one extreme to the other. It's not a flip-flopping. It's not a shifting gears from from feminine to masculine, or from structure to flow, or trying to balance the two in a sense of trying to manage them. But it's actually the unity of wholeness, the unity that is experience. It's really this divine union of the masculine and the feminine, where the structure and the flow is something that's lived in every moment of life. So one doesn't need to experience a dry, lifeless, rigid routine that they call life, and one doesn't need to experience the other extreme where life becomes so scattered and drifting through life without any intention, without any purpose, without any direction. But it's actually the best of both worlds, right? Where the divine feminine actually longs for that structure, that order. It complements the flow. This balance is what I call structured flow, where the flow is directed, it's informed, and your life is really that flow becoming form, and the form contains the flow. They're two aspects of the one energy, and this is something that can only be lived. It's beyond realization. It requires integration, where you're no longer flipping from one to the other, experiencing the extremes, but it's through the integration of the two that you live the fullness, the wholeness, the completeness of life. So if you're ready to live the fullness of life, you want to stop flip-flopping from extremes of structure and flow, and you want to experience the power of the unity of the two and experience them as one, then I invite you to join me in living truth.